We are live, Allan Buchanan. How are you this morning?
Tremendous, Miss Beth. How are you?
I am tremendous as well. I'm excited to have you. We are a new friendship, you and I.
We are indeed. Yes.
And because of social media and our mutual friend, Rod.
Rod Santamassimo. Yes, you and I definitely met the old-fashioned way via social media.
Exactly. So I always like to start on time, except for these lives. We're going live, so on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on YouTube. So
Wow.
as people start joining, we will tell the story. This is the Save the Deal Saturday series. When I got awarded the LinkedIn Live ability to go LinkedIn Live, I went on LinkedIn and I said, okay, what do you guys want to see? So I put, do you want role play Wednesdays or do you want Save a Deal Saturdays? And literally, I've never had this happen. It was exactly 50-50.
Really?
So I said, okay, I'll do both, but I'll alternate it. So, because LinkedIn wants you to have a regular weekly series. So I do role play Wednesdays every other Wednesday night at 6, and I do Save a Deal Saturday every other Saturday at 11.
Well, I think it's I think it's tremendous. I really do. I found you by accident when I was hopping around a couple of weeks ago, and I tuned in and found great benefit from the story. So it was really neat.
So Howard Klein says hello, and that we're two rock stars.
Well,
all right. So I'm going to introduce you. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say I value Howard's opinion because he's a rock star as well.
Absolutely. So Allan Buchanan in California, Lee and Associates, industrial rock star. I followed with keen interest last March when Rod Santamassimo from the Massimo Group held a March Madness challenge. And I wasn't involved in the challenge, but I was watching it. Rod was posting the results, and you eked out the win, Allan, right? You eked out the win. You beat Bob Knackel tell everyone by what range did you beat this guy?
I beat Bob Knackel well, first of all, full disclosure, Bob's new in the business, so I had to take it easy on him.
Okay, you have to elaborate for the people that don't know you're teasing there.
Yeah, so Bob Knackel is a quintessential eight-figure, perennial eight-figure performer. He's one of the original Massimo clients. He is Mr. Manhattan downtown. He has sold more office buildings and apartment buildings in downtown Manhattan than anyone. The guy is just legendary, and I've had the privilege of meeting him in person a couple of times. He's been my guest on a couple of Tuesday traffic tips. I call him the Tiger Woods of commercial real estate. Literally, he's the man. So that's I was teasing when I said he's new in the business. But anyway, I eked out the win by one silly referral. Even though I dusted him off in every other category, the category that week, which neither one of us knew prior to the week what we were competing, but it ended up being one referral. So it was down to the wire, but I took home the gold.
So yeah, so how much fun, Rod gamifying. I was sharing with you, we're doing a challenge, and I see Terry King is on here. She's in the challenge. We're doing a canvassing calendar club challenge where the people in the challenge have to prospect the amount of the days of the month. So for today, it includes every Saturday and Sunday. So today, our group has to prospect 23 people. So I'm usually, most of the time, I'm doing it as well. So I post on Facebook pictures of either business cards and a lot of times at 10:30 at night, I'm like scrambling to finish even myself. So, but how fun. So tell everyone before we jump into your deal that you saved, Tuesday traffic tips.
Yes. So Tuesday Traffic Tips is a video series, which is little 1 to 2 minute videos, which are in brokerage advice. So they're geared specifically for commercial real estate brokers. And I started doing them. I was driving to work one day and I had this epiphany and I said, I need to create some Twitter content, and video was becoming kind of the thing. This is in 2013. And I kind of credit Linda Day Harrison because she was a big mentor of mine at the time on Twitter. And if y'all don't know Linda Day Harrison with the broker list, get to know her. She's phenomenal. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool? I'm in Los Angeles. I sit in traffic. And so I'll do these little video series called Tuesday Traffic Tips. And so I started doing them on Tuesdays. And the first one I did, I actually was driving. And I got all these people saying, "Oh my God, you're going to kill us or others. Don't drive while you do them." So from that point forward, they were all stationary. But it's been a blast. I think we've got maybe 320 or 30 of them done, and they've evolved over time. They now kind of have some production quality. After all, I am near Hollywood, so they have a little production quality, and they're just a lot of fun to do. And as a result, I've gotten known kind of nationally. People say, "Oh yeah, you're the guy that does those little videos," and they don't quite know what they are. They don't quite know that they're called Tuesday Traffic Tips, but they know I'm the guy that does the videos. So
when I first started doing videos, I also was driving, and the back
webinar. Come here, sweet boy. Come here.
He wants to play with his
All right, come on, bring him here.
brother's stuff, and his brother doesn't mind, but I come.
All right, we'll bring him here.
Stuff.
He can join me. Come here.
Aw.
All right, here we go.
Hi.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. He's gonna be shy now.
That's okay. So I also got a lot of flack for driving, so I stopped immediately. But the person who told me about Tuesday traffic tips is my friend Barry Wolf.
Yes.
He loves you. So, and now some of the people in the chats, Debbie Ashland from Tallahassee said, "I need to follow Allan for the tips."
Yeah, indeed. Please.
All right. So let's jump into Save a Deal Saturday. So share with everyone your deal that you saved.
And I have to go back in time. I've been doing this since 1984. And the deal I wanted to share, which immediately came to mind, was truly transformational in my career. And it happened in 1986. So what was going on in the world is the savings and loans had made a ton. Savings and loans, for those of you unfamiliar, savings and loans were a vehicle. They were a lending institution that used to loan on primarily real estate, single family houses. And then the laws changed, allowing them to do a lot more risky transactions, including joint ventures with developers. They could loan on commercial properties. And so they made a lot of, candidly, quite risky deals. So there was a group called American Savings and Loans locally, and they had just an enormous amount of what we refer to now as real estate owned. And I sourced a deal, and it was a multi-tenant industrial project that American Savings and Loan had foreclosed. There was a group out of Tennessee that had purchased a big portfolio of these properties, most of them residential, but they ended up with one commercial deal, and that's the deal I sourced. So we got engaged to sell this project, and it was, I think we listed it at $3.5–4 million. It was a big deal at the time for me, and being new in the business, I needed to close it. And the other thing that was going on in 1986 is the Reagan tax laws were going to take effect in January 1st of 1987. So there was a big push to get transactions closed before the tax laws changed in 1986. So I sourced a buyer via an old-fashioned means. I went through the comps list, which at the time weren't digital. They were actually pages in a book that you turned. And I found a group that had bought multi-tenant industrial in the area. So I called them, and they said, sure, we'd love to buy it. Anyway, we entered contract. And so we were just about through our due diligence. And the time frame here is like December-ish. And mind you, we've got to get this transaction closed by the end of the month, because the buyer had told me in no uncertain terms, if I can't close this at the end of the month, I'm not going to buy it. So we were under a huge time crunch. So right before due diligence in, the buyer called and he said, "Hey, I'm not going to proceed." And I said, "What do you mean you're not going to proceed? You love this deal." He goes, "We're afraid that the buildings were built on an old landfill." And I said, "Well, how on earth could the buildings have been built on an old landfill?" He goes, "Well, we went through, we looked at the soils report." Now, mind you, this was during a time when phase one environmental reports were not done. They just simply were not done. They weren't required and they weren't done. And so we had nothing from which to rely upon except an old soils report when the buildings were built. And so I said, "Well, look, let's take a deep breath here and let's not cancel." He goes, No, I'm canceling. It's a landfill. I'm not buying a property on a landfill. I can't have a future problem, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, "Okay, fine." I went to the city. I sourced the old records. I basically did a phase one environmental report. I went and looked at the old uses. I looked at some old aerials. I went back as far as 1950s. And the community in which this property is located actually was an old petroleum community. So I was able to discover that there were no petroleum wells on the site, that the site, candidly, primarily had been orange groves, had been agricultural. And so I went to the buyer and I said, "Look, here's what I discovered. I mean, here's the old aerial. Here are the aerials from the 1940s. And the property has never been a landfill. It was always used as agricultural. And once the orange trees were torn down, it became an industrial park." And he says, "Okay, you know what? I'll go ahead and continue with the deal." So we proceed down the line, and there was still the contingency that would get it closed before the end of the year. So I'm thinking, we're golden. Well, on December 21st, now mind you, I think the year ended on the 30th that year. 31st was on a Saturday. So the Friday was the 30th, right? And so on the 21st of December, the buyer calls and he says, "Hey, we got a problem." And I said, "What now?" He says, "There is a gaping hole in the parking lot that is getting bigger by the moment." And I said, I thought the guy was winding me up because he knew I was a new guy in the business. He knew I was kind of relying upon this deal, knew I needed the deal. And he could tell every time we talked that I was kind of panic stricken. And I said, "Yeah, right." He goes, No, Allan, I'm serious." And so I'm about 15, 20 minutes away from the property. So I jump in my car, I drive up there, and it is a scene out of a horror film. There's this giant sinkhole, and the sides of the parking lot are caving in on top of it. And I could not figure out what on earth was going on. And then I had the flashback. Oh my gosh, he was right. This was a former landfill, right?
Oh my gosh.
So I called him and I said, "This isn't any big deal." And he laughs and he says, "Yeah, it kind of is a big deal." And he says, "I'm really sorry." He says, "We were so close." I said, "Time out. Let's see if we can fix this, right?" He goes, "I don't know how you're going to fix this. We got 9 days till the end of the year. We got Christmas in there. This thing ain't going to happen." I said, "Just give me a few minutes. Let me catch my breath here." So there was this big hole of water in the bottom. And I'm thinking, where on earth is this water coming from? Because this hole was maybe only 8 and 10 feet deep. And the water table certainly wasn't that high, right? So I said, "We've got a water leak." And so I called the city and I said, "Hey, I've got a water leak on this property and it's causing the parking lot to cave in." Fortunately, where the hole happened, it wasn't going to affect the structural integrity of any of the buildings. We were far enough away. And they said, "Well, where's the water?" And I said, "Well, it's here." And they said, "Okay, well, that's our responsibility," which is great. Even though it wasn't a city street, the parking lot, because it was an arterial water line, was part of the responsibility. So I had great
Magic to your ears, Allan.
Oh my gosh! So now
it's
we
your
got
responsibility.
Yeah. So now we got to deal with the city bureaucracy on December the 21st. And I said, when can you have someone out there? "Well, we can have someone out there after first year." I said, "No, first year won't work. Got to be now." So they magically get someone out there. The guy's got his little probe. He's trying to figure out where the water leak is. He's testing all the water lines. He can't find it. This goes on for 2 days. So now we're December 23rd.
Tick, 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 tick.
Right. And so we discover the water leak. He's upstairs. We discover the water leak. Awesome. Water leak's discovered. Okay, now it's a matter of now we got to fix the water leak. And we got to get all this done by December 30th. Well, the story has a happy ending. We got it done. We had a small holdback from the seller who I represented, and we got the thing closed at 4:00 on Friday, December the 30th. And so we all had a happy new year.
So,
And one other real quick funny aside. So the guy that was our client, the seller, was this older gentleman at the time. He was in his 50s. I was in my 20s. So he was in his 50s. He and his wife had moved out here from Tennessee. I turned 30 the next month in January. And we invited this guy and his wife to my 30th birthday party, which was a rousing affair. So he shows up with his wife. This guy takes serious drunk to the point that he had to sleep at my house. He and his wife wake up the next morning and she is some pissed that he had been such an idiot. I mean, he and I were up until, and I don't even drink anymore, so this is why it's so funny. But he and I were up until 3 a.m. with my deal partner. We had lampshades on our heads, dancing because we had closed this deal. So anyway, it was pretty funny.
I always say to my young friends, that call me for advice, I go, don't wear the lampshade. And they don't know what I'm talking about. They go, what does that mean? You're the first person ever. That's because you're close to my age, right? That we know what that means. So what I want to know is, so I'm just thinking, because, I own properties and I'm, understand parking lot disruption. So did you have, when you said there was a holdback, because obviously it couldn't fix it and repave the lot
by the time the deal had to close.
So
right.
how did you do that?
So, we got bids and we had bids to repair it. And so, and the other thing I didn't mention is the torrential rains came like the 26th.
Wait a minute. So, it doesn't rain in Southern California.
Unless you're trying to close a deal by December 30th. So the torrential rains came.
Wait. One more thing. When it rains, it pours.
Oh my God. Here. Literally and figuratively. So now we've got this swimming pool basically, right? And so we negotiated with the seller and the buyer and we said, look, we can't get this thing done by the 30th. We know what the problem is. It's not a landfill. It was a water leak. The water leak's been fixed. There's no more water leaking in except that's falling from God. So let's just agree on a number. We'll hold that back in escrow. That won't go to the seller until the hole is fixed and you're satisfied. And the buyer says, cool. So that's what we did. Yeah.
Okay. So in the last 7 minutes, give me the top 3 lessons you learned as a young broker that you've carried through till today on that deal. People say to me, oh my gosh, it's a terrible deal. And I always say, this is lessons. These are going to take you to the rest of your career, right?
Right. So first lesson I learned is absolutely expect that there's going to be a glitch. So to the point now, when the glitch doesn't occur, I get antsy because I know it's coming. So expect it. Number 2, when the glitch happens, take a real keen look at the downside. And what I mean by that is, all right, let's just say hypothetically that the deal doesn't close and you're not going to earn the money that you were planning to earn. Are the wolves going to be at the door? Is your house going to get foreclosed? Is your wife going to leave you? No, none of that's going to happen. It's going to be okay. So take I call it looking over the edge of the cliff, right? Look and see what you're dealing with. Can I survive the fall? And then the last lesson that I learned is the solution to the problem is generally within the problem itself. So it's a matter of taking a deep breath, stay positive, clearly delineate the problem, figure out what in fact the problem is. And the problem was not that the parking lot was caving in. The problem was we had a water leak, right? And that in effect ended up being the solution. But you had to really carefully identify it. And that takes a clear head and some real patience. You can't overreact for fear. You just got to move forward. So those are the three lessons that I took away. And frankly, it happened early in my career, which is great because now I consider myself one of the best problem solvers in the business.
Yeah, I think you are my third or fourth guest, but I think that those lessons I wrote down as you were telling the story, I said positivity, staying optimistic that I can solve the problem.
Right.
Absolutely. If the deal doesn't happen, hopefully your pipeline's big enough so that you're not going to emotionally go out over the cliff because it doesn't. You didn't spend the money in advance, right?
Right.
Clear head. Every Save a Deal Saturday that we've had, we've saved the deal because you didn't get emotional because you were going to lose the deal. You didn't get emotional because there were 8 days left. You stayed calm so that you could clearly say, there's a problem. There's a solution to every problem.
Right.
What is it and how? Because the buyer's like, forget it. It's not that important. I'll drop the deal. The seller's probably freaking the heck out. Someone has to stay calm and not worry about the fee. Worry
Right.
about the problem. So I think that identifying the problem and having optimism that there's a solution is crucial in all of the Save a Deal Saturdays. That continues to come up.
Right. One of my favorite lines out of Apollo 13 is when Ed Harris's character says, "Work the problem, people." And recall that's when they created that air filtration system from the things that were on board the aircraft. So work the problem. You just, really absolutely positively can solve, like you said, you can solve anything. Now, the solution doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get paid, but you can solve any problem. You absolutely can.
Well, Allan, first of all, I'm so happy we're friends now.
Yeah, indeed, Beth. Me too.
And thank you so much for jumping in and being a Save a Deal Saturday guest. I know that just by the comments, everyone's loving your advice and the story. So will you come back later on in the year and give us, I bet with your career, you have another Save a Deal Saturday story in you.
I've got one or two, Beth. I'd love to. That'd be phenomenal.
Okay.
And maybe you and I will figure out a way to do a coast to coast Tuesday traffic tips. How's that?
I would love that. And are you on Clubhouse yet?
Yeah, I am. I've not gone down the rabbit hole, as you call it, but I am on Clubhouse. Yes.
So you and I can do something on Clubhouse. That would be fun.
I'd love to. Yeah.
Well, have a happy Saturday. Go be with those beautiful grandkids.
Thank you so much. I'll do so. You have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.